Marketer of the day, number 447. Level up by being a direct sales troubleshooter, amplify your strengths, and scale your business using the 5 sales steps with Nathan Walker. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. And we're talking right now with Nathan Walker and Casey Phelan. And Nathan is a self-made millionaire, an entrepreneur, a direct sales expert, and a business owner. He has over 15 years of direct sales experience and business building, and he's changed the lives of many, many people with his ability to level up your life regardless of the industry. And Nathan is professionally affiliated with guys like Brad Lee, Grant Cardone, Henry Kaminsky, and others. And Nathan knows all about direct sales. He's 33. He's built a few multi-million dollar companies all based around selling, more specifically selling in the home. So hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Super great. How about both of you?
Dude, we're awesome, man. If we were any better, we'd be you, I'm sure.
Awesome. And it's a dangerous place to be. So great. So what's your company? What do you guys have going on, and what's your guys' relation to each other there?
Yeah, sure. So the company, the primary company that I own is called Energy Comfort Systems, and it's actually a holding company for a few other similar businesses. But basically, we operate out of Valparaiso, Indiana, and we specialize in residential energy conservation. So we'll go in and help families. Provide them solutions via whether it be products or services to lower their energy consumption. So that's the product that we use. I also own a real estate company where we flip houses and buy and sell properties, things like that. And then we do coaching as well. So I'm kind of in really three kind of spaces. I'm building companies. I'm consulting and speaking and coaching on one end, and then we do a little real estate on the other side. And Casey, actually, kind of a funny story. Casey and I went to high school together, though we didn't know it until about a year ago. I ran an ad looking for like a VP or a general manager, looking for someone to help me because we have so much going on. And that's kind of how I met Casey. I hired him to kind of help be a second set of eyes on all this stuff.
Well, great stuff. So it all worked out. And so you have the energy business, the real estate business, the coaching business. And I imagine that those are all have some similarities, some overlap, right? Like just in terms of like, yeah, you have your leads, you do some follow up, things like that.
Yeah. So, the main company, the company that I really make, if you were to ask me what I am, I mean, I've recently started getting into doing some coaching and selling some product that I've created over the years, but really, at the end of the day, I've made my money and I've built really my reputation around the Energy Comfort Systems brand and the in-home sales, direct sales world. And so that's really my bread and butter. That's what I'm the most proud of, and that's really where I've helped the most people, I suppose. So yeah, I mean they do kind of intertwine, but at the end of the day, that's the thing that's really made me who I am. The others are kind of now evolving over the years, I guess.
Okay, great. And so that energy stuff, I mean, what are we talking? Like solar panels, things like that?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool, actually. Our motto is to conserve before we create. So basically, what that means is we use certain products. We're a dealer for a company called Yellow Blue Ecotech. And Yellow Blue Ecotech is a company under an umbrella of companies called Eco Technologies International, and they're basically, they're a manufacturer and distributor of all types of products that are really designed to really help families become as families and small businesses alike, but really to help them become as energy efficient as possible, really before we go into creating energy. Because the reality is, you can put solar on a house, or you can find different ways to create energy, but the best and most effective way to do it is to first be as efficient as possible within the home. So Yellow Blue Ecotech makes these products. I'm actually an owner of that company as well. So I'm kind of involved on the manufacturing side and in the national the training aspect for their company. And then I also own a dealership for them, which is what Energy Comfort Systems is, and we're also the largest dealer in the country for them. So we have offices all over the country, and we got a big team of people out there every single day, trying to help people.
So is there a reason why you landed on this particular industry? Was there any like criteria that it satisfied for you?
Sure, it's a good question actually. Prior to this, so I owned a company for many years called Midwest Fire Safety, and we do residential fire protection. Basically, similar to ADT or Vivint, any of those companies, we were a dealer for a company that provided, residential fire and security protection. And honestly, that industry, that was around the time that the Vivint's and the ADTs were really becoming big on, give the equipment for free and charge a monthly, monthly service fee, I guess, where we were the opposite. We charged for the product and the monthly was really low. And so anyway, the point is we were kind of getting swallowed up by some of these bigger companies. And I was kind of really looking for a vehicle that would allow me to really scale. We were kind of hovering in the million and a half range in that business. And that wasn't anywhere near where my goals and my bigger visions were. And so honestly, there was this, I'd been searching for a company that would be able to make and manufacture products exclusively for me. I wasn't necessarily looking for the energy business. I was just looking for something that would be able to make a difference for the end buyer, for the person that bought the products, similar to fire and security, but that had a little bit more exclusivity in a market that wasn't as saturated, so that I could really grow and bring a bunch of people. And so, I kind of stumbled across this company that was, that manufactured these products and kind of learned the business, and we just started going from there.
Well, great. So there's lots of good things in there. It sounds like you said, there's the exclusivity part of it. There was part of it where it seems like you scratch your own itch, and then it also seems like this sort of niche. It seems like it ticks a lot of different boxes because it seems like it's really easy to position it as you have this great cause, which it is, and that you're doing great things, and also there's also the like it's a really hot sort of market right now, right? It's like you mentioned to someone about conserving energy, or you pay this and this will bring down your energy costs or your energy usage, or they can get whatever like tax advantages to it, things like that. It seems like that it's both a good cause, but also a thing that is all over the news that people can really relate to.
Well, that's just it, man. And that was the biggest thing, really, is that, there's a lot of things you can do to help people. If all you're doing is just wanting to help and make a difference, then, I mean, you can go volunteer at an animal shelter or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of things like that. So you kind of hit it, that there's two sides to it. One is that you have to be, feel good about what you're doing and believe in the product. And if it's genuinely doing good for people, that's a great thing. The other side of it is that honestly, I mean, it's got to be profitable, and it's got to be kind of sexy, like to be honest, the fire protection, the only time people really are excited that they bought fire protection is the night they had a fire, and that's a tough time for people. Where with this, like you said, you mentioned energy savings, you mentioned return on investment, you say the word solar, anything like that, green. It's just such a hot word right now that the marketing is, I don't want to say it's easier, but the marketing is a little bit softer, I guess. People are a little bit more open to talking. But what that does is it allows for bigger growth. So I can scale a business much faster, and I can recruit better people, younger people, when there's it's got a sexier appeal to it, I guess. So you're definitely right about that.
Well, great. It's always good to be right. So then how do you go about attacking this whole direct sales thing? Like, do you say, well, let me go and buy a list, or make some phone calls, or send out some letters, or go door to door? Like, with this sort of thing, where do you even start with all these different possible things you could do to market it?
Sure. Well, that's a great question, and honestly, there's really nobody should ever be relying on only one way of marketing, first of all. So it's kind of got to be a little bit of all of it. But I'll tell you what our end goal is. Some of the stuff that we do is a little proprietary to us, and we got a pretty good little niche. But I'll give you a little bit of a little teaser on what it is that our goal is to gather people into one room, as many people as we possibly can into one room, to do presentations for groups of people. And so we try to acquire, whether it be lists, whether it be phone calls, whether it be door knocking, whether it be direct mail, Facebook, social media. we do everything we can to get people together into rooms where we can put on a presentation in front of several people. So where in door knocking you can go and do a presentation for one family, our whole goal is to spend the time in the original, I guess, acquiring of the people, get them into a room, do a good presentation, and set appointments from there. So you can do that live, you can do that virtually. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the end goal, no matter how we do it, is to end up with a consultant, a salesperson, or an energy specialist sitting in the home of a prospective buyer, finding out if what we do could even help them. So that's kind of the end goal. So a lot of different avenues to get there, but the end result is that I get a guy, with a family who believes that they have a problem that we could possibly fix, and then have our guys follow a system to find out if what we do can in fact help them. And if we can, then obviously we close the deal, and that's how we make our money.
Well, great. It seems like a great goal and a great system, and it seems like it keeps things really simple because as opposed to saying, well, I need to go out there and make a bunch of sales and figure out these scripts, you're like, well, how about the milestone goal is to get people in that room, and then having the sales pitch to that room is another problem. But now you kind of have these two manageable problems here, getting people in the room and then selling that offer to the right people in the room.
That's exactly it. I mean, the biggest problem that salespeople have is they don't have enough leads. And I believe that the number one reason that people that are in any kind of in-home or face-to-face sales position, the number one reason that they fail or they quit, it's not because they're not making enough money, but it's because they get burnt out, And so what the goal here for us, we do a few things. One of the things we do is we focus on what we call like strength-based recruiting or strength-based placement, meaning, if a guy is better at putting on a presentation and selling a product, well, he's going to be in a room putting on presentations and selling products, not in a home trying to put on a presentation for one couple. We're going to get him in front of as many people as we can. But if your skill is consulting the customer one-on-one and closing the deal and asking for the order and effectively and accurately determining what they need, well, then that guy's going to be in the home. So you're right there. Our job is to really minimize the burnout on people by keeping them focused on one thing and solving one problem at a time.
I liked it a lot. And it also sounds like by doing it that way, you're focusing on your employee or your team members' strengths, not their weaknesses. Because it would be
100%.
easy to say, well, this person's good at this and that, but let's get their skills on one-on-one beefed up. But why do that? If they're comfortable doing that one thing, if they're really great at it without even trying, if it's what keeps them motivated and energized, why not just say, if that's what they're good at, have them do more of that, as opposed to trying to make them more well-rounded? There's no sense in that.
Totally. I've seen a lot. We have an expression like you can't make a 4 a 10. You know what I mean? And so like if you're a 4 in paperwork and in follow-up and stuff like that, I might be able to get you to a 6, maybe, you know what I mean? But you're never going to be a 10. And I see a lot of business owners out there trying to take a guy that's just not good at something and beating him up and beating him up and beating him up when that same guy is really, really great at something else. So let's just let's just totally go all in and maximize what his strengths are. And let's try to minimize the amount of activity that he's doing or using on those weaknesses. You know what I mean?
100%. I love it. So we mentioned, or I saw in your bio that you have all these interesting success stories where you overcame all kinds of, all the problems that inevitably happen when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with selling. So what kind of interesting stories do you have for us?
Well, for me, the biggest thing, honestly, is as a young guy, I mean, I didn't go to college. I was a terrible student in high school. I was really, so I grew up in a weird kind of situation. I had a grandpa who was a business owner, and my parents who were not business owners. They were really struggling, and my parents were kind of wanting to do something different than what their dad did, I guess, is maybe the best way to look at it. And so they were kind of, I guess, hippies back in the day. And so I kind of grew up in a household of struggling parents who, maybe had resources but didn't want to use them. And so as a kid, I grew up watching my parents fight about money a lot, and I listened to them. I watched them be very stressed out. And so I learned at 17, 18 years old that the only way that I could really do what I wanted to do financially, I needed to be in sales. And so I knew that sales was going to be the path, um, but the real path to wealth was going to be in creating businesses. And so, I guess the struggles started with, how do you tell your parents that want you to go to college, that want all these things from you, that you're not going to college, or that you're dropping out of college, and that you're going to go be a salesman. It wasn't a very appealing word to a couple blue collar, people. So that was a really tough time for me as a kid, and then getting into sales, I struggled. I went and I kind of was trying to find my place and find my vehicle, I guess. And as a 19, starting off at 18, then 19 and 20-year-old kid, trying to get married and do all these things. Honestly, I was in places with people that didn't have systems in place for me to really use my skills. But the funny thing is you fast forward now and you look at the way our companies are ran, it's because I like to find those 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old guys. I like to give them opportunities. And so I used all the things that forced me to struggle and forced me to lose money, to help give guys new opportunity. And so, I'd say the biggest struggle that I had in scaling was that I got really good at sales. I got really good at getting people to like me. And I got really good at going into a house, no matter really what the product was or what the scenario was. And I could win people over just on personality. But the hard part is when I would try to train someone and we would go and recruit and try to scale, it was very difficult to duplicate personality and life experience. And so what was easy for me to do wasn't necessarily easy for the brand new salesman or the experienced salesman. And so really my biggest challenge was figuring out systems and developing structure, developing processes to which I could recruit brand new people with no skill, plug them in so they could make multiple six-figure earnings if they put the work in. And so that was my biggest skill, and has thus far been my biggest accomplishment, or my biggest hurdle, but has turned into my biggest accomplishment, I guess, over the years.
Well, that's great, and that sounds really fulfilling that you were able to take that initial frustration and then train others the way that you wish you had trained. And I think that I can definitely relate. I think a lot of people listening can relate to finally getting past the point where, like, there's always like the beginning stage of being like, well, I'm frustrated, I'm not even sure if this is going to work, I need to put in all these hours, and then you start getting the results, and then suddenly now the business depends on you. And then in order to scale, in order to not shoot yourself in the foot there, you need to train others to do what you need to do. And I can definitely relate to there being a little bit of growing pains there in translating all these things that you do subconsciously, maybe, or just kind of have done so much that it's natural to you, and turning it into systems. And so how did you get over that hump? How did you take this skill that came naturally to you, or that you built up over time, and make it a step-by-step process anyone can pick up?
So it's crazy, man. I can remember I hired a guy who he was the vice president of sales for a major RV company in northern Indiana, and he was almost twice my age. He was very, very respected in his community, and he was kind of at a point in his life where he's wanted to step down from what he was doing and kind of maybe take it a little easier. He had been in the corporate world for so long, but this guy had literally trained hundreds and hundreds of salespeople in a totally different space, but still, he was a very trained salesperson. And he wanted to come and run some sales calls and, just kind of take it, kind of take it a little easier compared to what he was doing in his, 20 years prior. And I remember this guy could not close a door. I mean, I would put him in the best houses, the most, teed off, perfect leads. And he was really struggling with selling. And it was really strange to me. I'm like, how could this guy be so good at one thing and it's still called sales? I mean, look, it is what it is. But now he's trying to sell this product and he's struggling. And I remember I had a breakthrough one day. We had a meeting. We were in the office for an entire day. And I remember saying, look, man, we need to focus on 5 steps in the home. You're going in there and you're all over the place. I need to figure out how to structure these. And I remember this day that I structured out really 5 steps to the sale. And it's something that I've used in multiple industries. And I've actually helped thousands of salespeople with this same exact process. But I actually spent the time to map it out. Like, how do I get there? Maybe you don't have my personality, but if I could find a way to put this in steps, make sure that you don't leave the step you're on or move on from the step you're on until you know you've completed it, maybe we can get this guy to just stay focused and stay on track. And the funny thing is it took that guy about 2 weeks after that to really get some momentum. And he went on to be our best salesman, that honestly, probably one of the best salesmen we ever had before he ended up retiring. But it was really one of those things where I'm like, I just got to map this out. It's got to be something that's step by step, that's easily trainable, that anybody can pick up, and that most importantly is duplicatable for any type of personality if they're willing to do the steps.
And that's an interesting idea that's in there, is because I mean a lot of people talk about, what are the step, like what's the checklist to fill out, or what's the script to read. But that's interesting that your thought process there was not just the steps themselves, but what step are you in? Have you done everything within that step to move on to the next step? And that's like huge right there, because I mean, like there's a lot of parallels to like selling and like the pickup artist dating stuff, and that's a huge thing. And like,
Sure.
don't just rush to the ends if you haven't completed the I guess sub steps in that one phase. And so I mean, is it easy for you to explain real quick like what those 5 steps look like in these last couple of minutes, or is that
Yeah.
too much to
No,
unpack?
no, totally. Yeah. So, and again, like this is something that you hit it right on the head. I could tell you the steps. I can write them down. I'll speak at a conference and I'll pass out the 5 steps, but there's a lot to it. A lot of it is being real clear on where you're at in the step, and being understanding kind of what has to happen and really why you're going through it. But here they are, just kind of to run through them. The first step is what we call a 5-minute friend. So step number 1 is, do you have to be on some sort of friend level? It doesn't have to be buddy, but if nothing else, there has to be some respect between you and the buyer. Because I know that at the end, when I want to ask for the order, if they don't like me or they don't trust me, they don't respect me, they're not going to do business with me. I could have the best product in the world, but if I don't like you, or you could have the best product in the world, but if I don't like you, or if I don't totally, there's something that's not there, I'm probably not going to do business with you. So step 1 is what we call 5-minute friend. Get on common ground. Get their guard down a little bit. Step 2 is probably the most important. These are all equally important, but this one is huge. Step 2 is what we call the fact-finding or investigating stage. Step 2 is where, and this applies to anybody, wherever you're at, you need to be identifying problems that possible customer would have that you're able to solve. So an example would be, if you're a marketing guy and you come to me and just tell me, hey man, you really need to do better you need to get more into Facebook, you need to get Instagram, you need to do this, you need to do that. I might agree with you, but if I don't think I have a problem, I'm not going to do business with you. And I might really like you too. You know what I mean? So the idea is that you have to find problems, loopholes, gaps, areas that I'm losing. So in our business, we're going to find areas where they're losing energy, or their home is uncomfortable, or there's problems in their home. Every single industry is missing this part right here. They're not accurately investigating and finding out facts about the customer to find out what is actually important to them. And that's the other little sub thing to this is, finding out what problems do they even care about. You could tell me that, that I need to lose weight. You tell me, dude, you need to lose 5 pounds. But if I don't think I need to lose pounds, I'm not going to do it, So you got to find problems that the customer believes are problems. The third step is presenting solutions to those problems. So now, after I've found a problem that you believe that you have and that you agree with, I have to show you not only that there's a solution, but that I'm the one that could solve those problems for you. And I'm going to spend as much time as I need to in this step until you believe it and we're on the same page. A lot of guys are so quick to go and write estimates and drop off bids and give people, their business card when, dude, they don't even know if what you do can help them, So we spend as much time as we need in presenting the product to them, showing them a solution to every problem that they have. And then finally, after that is all there and we're all on the same page and we agree, you guys could see how this would help. You could see why, if you were on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, you could see where that would increase your revenue, increase your footprint, whatever. Now we move on to the presentation of price. I'm not going to get into pricing terms, negotiations, anything like that, unless I know we're all on the same page, because that price part can get tricky, especially in an in-home sale. We're talking about big ticket items. I want to make sure that they fully understand everything they need to know about me and the product and the solution before I do it. So the presentation of price is important. Then lastly, you close and post-close. Those are kind of the same. The reality here is, man, when we apply these 5 steps to the sale, a much more detailed version of this that we train on, but you can apply these to any industry out there. And what'll end up happening is those salespeople that are I need to think about it, I want to shop around, can I sleep on it, give me a week, leave your business card, all those things, they almost completely go away when you follow those when you follow those steps and you're really aware of where you're at all times.
Yeah, that's great. And a lot of this is making a lot of sense, like you were saying before, about a lot of the sales processes to help people in general, and to, instead of just spewing on them your stuff, ask questions and figure out not only where the hurt is, but what about the hurt is it that they actually care about. And then that way it helps things. And we mentioned Grant Cardone in your bio a little bit. And one of my favorite Grant Cardone stories is like he went to Staples or a Best Buy or something to get a laptop, and then the salesperson, instead of just like talking about megabytes and gigabytes and Wi-Fi and stuff, was asking him about what he wanted to do with it, and then based on that answer, then he gave the 2 or 3 possibilities. But it's just like you were saying, it's like instead of just going in with the shotgun approach, you ask these questions, and then they say, well, here's the problem, and then it's only logical from then to present the solutions, and then they decide on the solution. And it's like, it's great how you lay that out, in that there's a lot of forward motion. One thing leads to the next, leads to the next.
Well, so that's exactly it. I went into Best Buy the other day. We do a podcast and we needed another camera. And I told this guy, look, I need a camera. All I need is just for it to be on. I just need it to stream from the office. And this guy starts going into all these technical things about these cameras. And man, I've got the attention span of like a squirrel. Okay. Like I don't have time to sit and listen to all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, does it do this? And he's like, well, yeah, but it also does this. And honestly, man, like if I wasn't in a pinch, I would have walked away. You know what I mean? Like I needed it. And all I cared about was that it would do what I wanted it to do. And he never even asked. And so it took him about an extra 15 minutes to get to the close with me, because he was just rambling about things I didn't care about. You know, he'd have just asked me, what do you want it for? Do you care what it costs? And are you ready to buy it now? I would have probably said yes. You know what I mean? So totally, man. You got to sell people on what they care about, not what you care about.
And you got to know what the goal is. Is the goal to get them to the finish line, or to show off your own knowledge and score some points and impress someone? Well, how does that doesn't really make you money right there.
Totally, man.
Well, awesome. So lots of interesting stuff for us to think about today, as far as what we need to do to choose the right thing to do in our business, and how to sell better, and how to remove ourselves from the business, and this great 5-step selling process, the 5-minute friend, get their respect. Step 2, figure out do the fact finding, the investigating. Step 3, present solutions. Step 4, presentation and price. Step 5, close and post close. And I'm sure that a lot of people listening are saying, well, now you've got my interest piqued, you got my appetite whet a little bit about talking about the selling stuff, or about all these different things that we mentioned. So I'm sure that some people out there are wondering about books, courses, websites, whatever you guys have to offer. So what is the next logical step after listening to all this great stuff we're talking about today? Where should people go right now while it's still fresh on their minds?
Absolutely, man. So you can follow me on The Nathan Walker. So facebook.com/The Nathan Walker. You can follow me there. I do a lot of this stuff. I do a podcast twice a week where we dive deeper into this. I do a podcast called Level Up with Nathan Walker as well, where you can follow me there. I am working on some of these things right now, where this stuff's going to be available to the public. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brad Lee, but I'm actually going to be out there in the week of the 4th, working on some stuff with him. So all this stuff will be available.
Lightspeed BT, yep.
Yeah, so we're going to be working on putting this stuff into some courses for people. So it'll be available end of December. Should be available for the public. And actually, it's funny you asked. I'm writing a book right now too that should be available. It's going to be a short one. It's going to kind of tell my story. It'll be a 120, 130 pager. It's not going to be anything crazy. Kind of a, if I can do it, anyone can kind of book, talking about coming from a broke family, not having college experience, running multi-million-dollar companies, and, at the same time being a dad and a husband kind of deal. So that'll be out by the first of the year as well.
Awesome. So make sure, no matter what point in time you're listening to this, if you're listening to this right when we came up with the episode, or a few weeks later, well, guess what? Now you have all this extra bonus stuff. You can check out the stuff with Nathan and Brad Lee, and hopefully you have that slick lighting setup where the light's coming up out of the table, and maybe the book will be ready by the time people check it out. So make sure to go to thenathanwalker.com to see that Level Up podcast. You can get all kinds of tips and tricks and insights on selling and the things you need to know to grow your business. And then check out that stuff with Brad Lee and check out the book and whatever else is available at thenathanwalker.com. So go there right now and we'll see you there. And as we're wrapping up here, Mr. Nathan and Casey, any final advice or any kind of parting words for everyone listening here today?
Man, I think at the end of the day, here's the thing. Life is about selling, so in my world, we deal directly with people selling in homes, but you need to really skill up your game. Those 5 steps you can apply anywhere. If you're a waitress or you're just a stay-at-home mom, everything you do is a sale, and you need to be real aware of that. And I just believe this, that, and a lot of this stuff might sound familiar, but dude, there's a lot of money going around in this world. There's a lot of opportunity in this world, and you get one shot. Your days are numbered, whether we want to admit it or not. And just me personally, I want to know that when I'm on my last breath, that I could look back and say, obviously I want to help a lot of people, but I want to say that I went as hard as I could and I maximized everything I could. And so that's ultimately what I'm trying to help other people do.
I love it. You'll regret the things you don't do the most, right?
That's right, man.
Super great. So, keep that in mind, everyone listening. And if you need to, then listen to this episode again and again or once a month so that way you can get all the great stuff. And make sure you go to thenathanwalker.com. Go to find that podcast, subscribe to that as well, and listen to a bunch of episodes because you made it this far in this episode. Clearly, you want to make a change in this whole selling thing, so take the next logical step. The great thing about all of us people out here with our internet sites is we have tons of free stuff, so you don't necessarily have to pull the trigger just yet unless you want to, but if this selling stuff excites you, if it interests you, then go and subscribe to that Level Up podcast and subscribe to whatever you find on that site. So that way you're taking the next step in your own journey to get to where you want to and where you need to go. So you can do, as Nathan said, look back without any regret to know that you left it all on the field, as they say, or you gave it your all and that you did everything that you needed to for your own future, for your family's future, for all that fun stuff. So thenathanwalker.com. Thanks you guys for listening. And thanks to Casey and Nathan for showing up. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Subscribe to us right now while it's still fresh on your mind at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes.